When you think about the economy, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it giant factories, sprawling farms, physical products? Well, what if I told you that the biggest, most powerful part of our modern world isn't about making things at all? It's about doing things. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the massive and often invisible service economy.
Okay, so let's break this down. You can pretty much split the economy into two big buckets. On one side, you've got the economy of making things. This is the old school stuff. Agriculture, factories, mining. Things you can actually touch. But on the other side, you've got the economy of doing things. Transportation, banking, software, tourism. Just think about your own job for a second. Are you physically making a product, or are you providing a service for somebody else? Yeah, for most of us, it's definitely the latter.
And that right there brings us to what I like to call the invisible economy. It's this huge part of our world that's built on the service sector, which is also known as the tertiary sector. It's all about providing services you can't really hold in your hand, instead of manufacturing physical goods.
So here's the tricky part. How do you measure something you can't hold? A sugar factory, for example, makes, tons of sugar. That's easy to measure. But what about the truck driver who moves all that sugar to a grocery store? They haven't made anything new, but without them, that sugar is useless. So their output isn't measured in tons. It's measured in the wages and salary they earn for providing that absolutely essential service.
And when you look at the scale of this, wow, it is just massive. In pretty much all developed nations and more across the whole globe, the service sector is the single biggest piece of the economic pie. It completely dwarfs both industry and agriculture.
All right, so how does this whole thing work in the real world? Let's start with the basics, the most fundamental services there are. The ones that literally connect our world by moving everything and everyone around.
Just think about the journey of, say, the phone in your pocket. It starts at a manufacturer, then goes to a wholesaler, gets moved by a transporter, sold by a retailer, and then finally, it gets to you. That entire chain, that whole journey, is powered by this incredibly complex web of services: trade, transport, and communication.
You can often tell how healthy a country's economy is just by looking at its transport network. And these networks are really made of just two simple parts. You've got nodes, which are the meeting points, like big cities or towns, and then you have the links. That's the roads, the railways, the paths that connect all the nodes. It's pretty simple. The stronger the links, the more powerful and efficient the whole economy becomes.
So we've talked about how things move. Now let's talk about how people move. This leads us straight into one of the world's biggest and honestly most personal service industries, tourism.
Tourism is the perfect example of a service that's all about the experience, right? People aren't buying a physical thing, they're buying a memory, an adventure. They travel for a warmer climate, to walk through ancient historical sites, to dive into a new culture, or, hey, just for some good old-fashioned fun. It's a whole economy built on creating those moments.
But this has also led to a really fascinating and kind of unexpected new branch of the service industry, one that's driven by a very different and often very urgent need.
And here it is. Welcome to the world of medical tourism. Just look at those numbers. The cost differences for major procedures can be absolutely staggering. People are now traveling from developed nations to countries like India, Thailand, and Malaysia to get high-quality medical care for just a tiny fraction of the cost. It's this powerful blend of healthcare services and tourism services all rolled into one.
Okay, let's keep climbing that economic ladder. We're moving up, beyond physical services like transport and tourism, and into this whole other realm where the service itself is information. I want you to really think about this for a second. What's the most valuable thing in the world today? It's not gold, it's not oil, it's not even all the manufactured goods we make.
Yep, the answer is information. The collection, the production, and the distribution of information has exploded into its own massive economic sector. We call this the Quaternary sector. This is the knowledge-based part of our economy.
Now, this whole information economy has led to the rise of global outsourcing, but it's super important to know the difference here. You've got BPO, that's business process outsourcing, which is all about handling routine tasks like call centers to cut costs. But then you have KPO, knowledge process outsourcing, and that is a totally different beast. KPO is about outsourcing highly skilled work, like research and development or complex data analysis. It requires a workforce of seriously qualified professionals.
And that brings us to the very, very top of the service economy. This is the peak. This is where you find the people who don't just process information. They're the ones who create brand new ideas and make the high-level decisions that shape all of our lives. This is what we call the Quaternary sector. These are the activities all about creating and interpreting new ideas. So think about top government officials, research scientists who have those eureka moments, or top-tier legal consultants. Sometimes they're called gold-collar professions because their work, those big decisions and breakthroughs, directly impacts our future.
But, and this is a big but, as our entire economy becomes more and more dependent on this constant flow of information and knowledge, a really critical and pretty tough question comes up. Who actually gets access to all of it?
Because this is the stark reality of what we call the digital divide. There's a massive gap in who can access information technology. It exists between developed and developing countries, for sure, but it also slices right through countries themselves, separating big cities from more remote rural areas.
And so this leaves us with a final, really crucial thought. In a world where the entire economy is powered by information, what happens when access to that information is wildly unequal? Who gets the chance to climb this new economic ladder, and who gets left behind? Finding the answer to that is without a doubt one of the biggest challenges of our time.